Do you ever struggle with not knowing when to start your seeds in the garden? This app helped me stay organized and gives me an idea of when my pepper plants should be planted in my area. It's too much of a daunting task for me to have to look to see how many weeks I should plant, then count backwards on the calendar from my last start date. Seed Time can do this all in the app. It can calculate when to direct sow your seeds, when you should transplant, and also harvest. Here I'll show you how to use the Seed Time calendar and how I use it, and just to be able to keep track of like all of my plants that I am growing this year. So when you first open up the app, you won't see these crops here. This is all of the stuff I'm growing. I also unchecked everything. So normally you'll see everything that you have for seeding, direct sowing, bed preparation, transplanting, cultivating, harvesting, and custom stuff. And you can set these for like whatever dates and the months as well. So we have all like the whole year. But the first thing you'll want to do is go into the settings. And then you can name your garden whatever. I think I had it whatever the default was, which was my garden. You'll want to enter in your address. Now you can just enter in your zip code, but definitely having your address will help with determining when to start your seeds. Now the growing zone you can put in there. Usually growing zones don't matter most of the time when it comes to like your frost dates, because somebody that has a growing zone of like 6B on the west coast versus 6B on the east coast, it could be completely different. They have microclimates and the frost dates will also be different. You can enter in your average last frost date and your average first frost date, and then you can start adding a crop. So when you go into, you'll add a crop over on the right side here. You'll select the plant category. Let's do broccoli. So we'll do broccoli first. Then you can select the variety. I'm just going to pick one. Let's see. I know Bellstar is a popular variety that people use. And then you can label it. So if you have like front yard tomatoes, like whatever you want to label it. I sometimes label it differently. And then you can change the color if you have multiple varieties or specific colors you want to represent, which will show over on the left here. And then when you scroll down, now this will be the most important thing that you select in this planner. So the options are seed and transplant, direct seed. So the seed transplant is when you want to sow your seeds yourself. So you have your seeds and then you transplant it out when it's ready to transplant. Direct transplant is if you have a plant that you get from like a store or a friend gives you a plant. That's when you are directly transplanting your plant in there. And then direct seed is when you're sowing your seeds outside directly into the garden. Because broccoli is a cool weather crop, you usually want to start it early. So I'm just going to have it selected as seed transplant. When you do select like the variety, it usually will have it auto select for you for the best method. Like if it is known to direct seed versus like start seeds indoors or direct seed or transplant, it should auto pick for you, but do whatever you decide. They do say like cucumbers is best with direct sowing. So it just depends on if you're direct sowing or if you're going to plant your own seeds or if you're going to grow your seeds indoors and then transplant them out at a later date. So we'll choose transplant, and it does automatically say cool season. It will change if it's a warm season crop versus cool season. And then down here, you can see it has when you should start your seeds, when you should have the bed preparation before transplanting. So usually if you're adding fertilizer, when you should expect to transplant your seeds, and then the cultivating, I don't really worry about this. And also the harvesting, when you should expect for harvesting your plants. And you can edit all of these. So if like, let's say, click on this, I usually make sure when I'm looking at the seed packet that it matches these. Normally it will match, but sometimes it doesn't. And if there's anything that I need to edit, I'll edit it. But usually it's pretty good at knowing how many days or you want to start your seeds for your broccoli, you can set a date. But usually it goes from the relative frost date. Then you can choose like if you're doing a spring or summer season or the fall or winter, and then you can choose your dates. And then this usually will have your start date. So it will tell you on the seed packet how many weeks before frost date. So it's like 7 weeks before your frost date, or you can do after your last frost, however you're deciding to plant. But usually I don't edit most of this stuff. I know I do edit with my peppers because my peppers seem to take a long time, and because my setup is not the greatest, only with the grow lights indoors. They're not like super strong grow lights. It does take longer for them to grow. So I start my peppers in February. I usually keep whatever the default is. You can also delete these if you're not adding them to the calendar yourself. This just kind of gives you a guideline of pretty much like when they expect to sow seeds, to transplant, to harvest. It's not going to be 100% accurate just because of like depending on your area, your weather, because some days could be cooler, some days have storms. Once we're finished editing, we can just hit schedule. Now it will show on the calendar. I have filters turned on currently, but it's showing the broccoli. I would need to start in March. So roughly about the end of March is when I would want to start my broccoli. Now you can change and update these. You'll have your broccoli here, and then you'll also see your whole list of all of your plants that you'll be growing. So I have this is all of mine that I'm growing this year. You can also add a succession sowing, which it'll automatically calculate for you of like when you want to succession show your plants. You wouldn't want to do that with broccoli, obviously, but like for lettuce, you can filter out what you would see. So here's everything. If I would check everything off, and could get kind of a lot if you have multiple plants. So I usually just uncheck bed preparation, cultivate, and then I will just have seeding, direct seed, transplant, and harvest. You can change it to month if you would like. If you want a direct overview of just the month, you can select it up here, and then you can do the year, which I had it already selected for the year. So I'm going to be starting my peppers. So I'm going to be sowing seeds roughly between the 18th to the 24th. Now, this is just a window of when possibly I should. Now, I'll be needing to sow seeds pretty soon, all of my peppers. When you do complete them, you can also mark as complete, and it will check it off for you. So let's say seeding onions, my bunching onions, let's say I'm done with that. I can click mark complete, and then it'll cross it out for you. So if you want to be organized, let's say you forgot this week in March to sow your chamomile or direct seed it, you can move these also. So if you're like, I want to start it later in the month, you can move those. And then it'll give you a warning. This is the protection warning. So if you're planting outside, it's going to tell you like, hey, it's too cold outside. You shouldn't be planting. This is a nice little calendar. I just like to be able to keep track of everything because I would forget what I needed to sow indoors versus direct sowing outside. And it just helps me keep track a lot of all of my plants because once you start, like if you're planting multiple different varieties of different kinds of plants, flowers, it gets like all of this, it gets kind of pretty chaotic. And I'm not really one to keep like a journal. And just having it in calendar form really helps my brain just kind of work my way to knowing, okay, I need to start my peppers this week. They also have other features, which is the layout. I think this one is the paid version. You can have your task list, which you can click on that, and it'll take you to all of the tasks that you need to do. Then there's the journal. I haven't really used the journal much. I used it a little bit last year, but you can upload pictures, and like here I had oh, three of my serrano peppers have sprouted. Now I use the Epic Gardening Journal and the Garden Planner just because they're connected. So I don't use the Seed Time one. I use the calendar because it's totally free, and I believe with like the other features like the layout, it does cost money. The garden calendar is 100% free, but this is what I use for just keeping track of all of my seedlings and everything. It has definitely helped me take out all of the guesswork of when I need to sow my seeds, when I should expect to harvest, when I should do this. It takes a lot of time to have to go through each plant one by one and to calculate everything. When this can automate it, and it's pretty easy to add your plants and just see all of the overview. If you have any questions on how the seed time calendar works, let me know in the comments, and I will post a link of how to get the calendar down below as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.